dear students. Today let's read the poem Amanda. Amanda, written by Robin Klein. Every child feels that she or he is controlled and instructed not to do one thing or another. You too may feel that your freedom is curtailed, is restricted. There may be things which you want to do, but your parents or elders do not allow. So, it is the same kind of poem with the same idea. Basically, this poem is about the issue of children's growing up and their upbringing. It highlights the struggles faced by the child. Indirectly, the poet stresses that children should not devoid of freedom in their natural growth. The parents have a great responsibility to bring up their children to be good citizens later. So, they should see that their children are unnecessarily made to feel repressed. Now, in this poem, Amanda, her parents prepare her to be acceptable in the society by restricting her in many ways. But they do not feel that in doing so, they restrict her freedom and space. And Amanda feels this restriction so much that she does not want to grow up. She wants to remain like an orphan. Continuous taunting, nagging, and fault finding make her moody. So, obviously, the result do not come out as desired. So, let us now read this poem line by line. Though it looks very simple, short small poem, but the message, the explanation is more deeper than the line given. So, listen very carefully. The first stanza: don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't haunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. In this stanza, Amanda is instructed, apparently by her parents, not to bite her nails and sit lazily with her shoulders bent. This is a bad norm and this lacks proper etiquette, biting the nails and sitting with the shoulders bent. But the tone of the instruction of how to sit, her present sitting slouching, is not acceptable. This tone is derogatory. This is insulting. Amanda is getting trained in social and personal etiquette, but the manner is highly demanding. This implies a suggestion to parents of young girls as how they should bring up their children, especially the girls. The stress is on making Amanda acceptable to human society, but the modus operandi, the manner, is willfully wrong. Her name in the end of stanza is made up of sound in the form of exclamation as irritating or insulting, and it expresses Amanda's parents' wrong methods of teaching and training her. Second stanza: there is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid, drifting blissfully. Now, see, this stanza is given in brackets, in parenthesis or brackets. It throws light on the presented situation in the poem. Also, it is an imaginative escape of Amanda, who is highly sensitive and feels greatly troubled by the taunts of her parents. She escapes in imagination to her own world, into the sea, which is far away from the nagging commands of her parents. the languid emerald sea. Languid means peaceful, relaxed. Emerald means the green here. Emerald is a green precious stone. So here the green sea it indicates. So Amanda escapes in imagination into the world, into the sea which is far away from the nagging commands of her parents. This imagined world is free from any kind of restrictions. There are no restraints here for Amanda. She imagines herself like a free and joyful mermaid sailing freely as she likes in the emerald water. Mermaid, you should know, a sea creature or Jalpari we call it. Now this world of Amanda, imaginary world of Amanda, is blissful place where she wants to be forever. Mermaid is now a symbol of freedom and wonder for her. It implies that children in such situation act like this. Third stanza. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. Again those nagging instruction by the parents. Here again the poet brings back Amanda into her physical world again. Amanda's parents ask her if she has finished her homework, tidied her room. She is also instructed to clean her shoes. Now the pattern of instruction amounts to treat Amanda in a humiliating tone, insulting tone. It implies that Amanda doesn't care for these instructions, as she feels disgusted with the nagging attitude of her parents. Equally, her parents adopt a stern tone involved in I thought I told you to clean your shoes. This is a very stern, very strict, rude tone. The exclamation mark after her name involved in I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. This exclamation mark after her name reveals this aspect. It points to the possibility that Amanda is getting obstinate, haughty, jiddi we say, and her parents are losing their head, losing their temper on her. Again coming back to the next stanza, see again it is given in parenthesis in brackets. I am an orphan roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. The silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. These lines are very important line in the poem. In this stanza, we find Amanda reacting to her mother's harsh words. She withdraws into her imaginative world again. The first line, I am an orphan, expresses Amanda's helplessness and awful depression. She is greatly dejected and disappointed due to the irrational instructions of her parents, and continuous questioning simply troubles her emotionally. She has no shoes on her feet, as she creates a pattern on the soft dust with her bare and hushed feet. A pattern, soft dust with my hushed bare feet, means here he makes designs, he makes patterns with the bare feet. Hushed means silence. So with her bare feet she makes patterns on the dust. She creates pattern on the soft dust with her bare feet. She walks in a hushed manner, silent manner, which throws light on her condition. She cherishes the silence and freedom to do as she likes to do it. She says the silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. She likes to remain in her world of imagination due to the nagging instructions of her mother. She loves silence and freedom just because of her parents' yelling and crude kind of commands. Next exchange. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda. Will you please look at me when I am speaking to you, Amanda? The translation is very simple. Don't eat that chocolate. Remember your acne and look at me when I am talking to you. So, the instructions, or rather the cold commands of Amanda's parents, continue. She is asked not to eat chocolates as she will develop acne on her face. Acne means, you must know, pimples. It implies care and attention towards the external appearance. Look here, what will happen if she develops pimples? It is implying the attention towards the external appearance, on how she look externally. She is made conscious of natural phenomena of developing pimples. This again is an indication of the values and necessity of social needs of life. Her parents nagging in, will you please look at me when I am speaking to you, Amanda? It is cruel and it is monstrous in the sense that is simply killing Amanda's spontaneous growth. This also expresses her parents' anger as she is scolded now. The value of appearance in the society again is shown more significant than the natural growth. Again, Amanda's own word. Next Sanja. I am Rupanjal. I have not a care. Life in a tower is tranquil and rare. I'll certainly never let down my bright hair. These are also very important lines. Amanda is still in the world of her imaginations. She imagines to be the long golden haired Rapunzel who lived in a castle. You must have heard the story of Rapunzel. Rapunzel is the name of a German fairy tale character, a girl in German fairy tales who was made to live in a high tower having long golden hair. So, Amanda thinks that Rapunzel's life must have been very peaceful and contented, satisfied while living in that high tower. But she doesn't want Rapunzel's fate that was out there onto Rapunzel. She doesn't want to let down her bright hair like Rapunzel did. She seeks Rapunzel's life. She seeks a life like Rapunzel, far away from the life she is at present living. The inhuman treatment has sapped Amanda's inclination towards human society. She doesn't want any other person with her, as that would mean repetition of her suffering emotionally. She doesn't have any faith in the human society and its cruel demands on her freedom and personal space. That's why she again goes back to imaginary world, imagining herself as Rapunzel living lonely but freely. In the last stanza, stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You are always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. Now, Amanda's parents still continue with their harsh instructions. However, Amanda still remains in her own imaginative world. The parents believe that Amanda is not reacting, and that is bad. Stop that sulking at once. Sulking means getting bad tempered, getting irritated, like chidchidavan, moody. So, however, Amanda still remains in her imaginative world. The parents believe that Amanda is not reacting, and that is bad. They are more worried about their impressions in society. It is clear. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. What it implies? Apparently, they do not want the society to know they are nagging Amanda. They have been nagging Amanda. They do not want to know it. They do not want the society to know about it. They are worried about how the society will look at it, how the society will perceive them through Amandas remaining in a moody state. When they will see Amanda's behavior, they will judge the parents, so they do not want it. They are more worried about it, that how the society will think. They are concerned with establishing a fair balance between what Amanda wants and what society expects of Amanda. But this is a cruel situation, as Amanda's parents are harming Amanda's natural growth due to the compulsions at social level. Though it may be a compulsion for them at the social level, but it is harming Amanda's natural growth. So it is cruel on their part. So this was all about this poem, Amanda. I hope you have understood it. Okay, at last, if I talk about a few important things, the poetic devices like alliteration, the repetition of initial consonant sound in the same line is alliteration, like stop that slouching and sit up straight. So, repetition of S, example of alliteration. Metaphor is also there. Silence is golden. So, it is example of metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech showing comparison of two different things, two unidentical things. Silence is golden is kind of metaphor. And there is one more device which is called allusion. Allusion is a reference to a thing or a person or place from religion or from history, from mythology, from literature, like mermaid and Rapunzel are the characters references taken from the mythologies or the literature. So you can say it is the example of allusion, mermaid and Rapunzel. Okay, that's all about the poem. We will be doing the question answer next. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you. Bye bye.